A circuit that has been testing out the world's best since 1955. Our main race tomorrow is the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship Motul SportsCar Grand Prix. So, before we do that, tomorrow we have to have a grid set, and that's what we're going to do in 4 15-minute sessions, which are coming your way very shortly. It will be the GTDs that go out first. Alongside me, John Hindorf, in the For Performance Global Broadcast Centre is Ryan Marine, and our pit lane reporter is Arjuna Kankapati down there at the moment, with one of the stories, not of just this weekend, but of the season, Forte Racing, about to go out and qualify their number 78 Lamborghini Huracan. It's not so much, Arjuna, about the car that they've got here, but their spare car, which has been pressed into action this weekend, but not for the Forte team.
No, they've had a relatively untroubled weekend, and so we talk about their spare car. It's actually been provided to Pfaff, who in the GTD Pro class had a big incident in free practice 2 that saw both the right front and the right rear impacted quite heavily, and so Forte very kindly have provided an entire, not just spare chassis, but a spare car to the Pfaff crew, who are working hard to prepare it to go racing tomorrow. It's just great to see, John, the camaraderie within the paddock, even when, you know, some of these teams in some ways are competitors against each other in other ways. Forte aren't the only team, though, that did offer a spare car to the Pfaff team. Wayne Taylor Racing also offered one of their Lamborghinis. The only complication with that, John, it was back in the shop in Indianapolis, and the Pfaff guys would have had to drive 10 hours to Indy, pick the car up, drive it back 10 hours, and then put a gearbox and engine in. So I think logistically that was a bit too much of a challenge, but both Forte and Wayne Taylor Racing coming to the aid of Pfaff, who, like I said, will miss qualifying. They'll be out for the race tomorrow.
Incredible, Ryan Marine, the camaraderie. They are bitter rivals, even though they all use the Lamborghini car, but bitter rivals on the track to be the best Lamborghini, of course, but able to pitch in and help where required. There's still quite a lot of work to get that car into IMSA spec, including, I think the most important thing is to get the drive shafts changed so that the torque sensors are on there. So it's not just a case of changing the livery or putting a different set of numbers on that car.
Right, it's not the work of a moment either to get that car in the right specification for IMSA competition. According to some of the reporting that I've read, that car has been run as recently as April. There was a test that Forte used that car in at Button Willow in the lead up to, or right around the time of the Long Beach Grand Prix. So it has turned some wheels in the not so distant past, but to get it fully ready to go for competition, that is the challenge that still lies ahead of the Pfaff team. They're still hard at work at this stage, and as Arjuna mentioned, really from the word go, they were pretty clear that they didn't expect to have the car ready for qualifying. Frankly, they were going to be on the back foot in qualifying anyway, because that incident brought out a red flag that would have cost them their fast lap in the session. So no reason really to hustle there. And it's worth noting, John, they're not the only team we'll be talking about with that penalty. A few others had some issues in the practices earlier, either today or yesterday, that will have them then scrambling to try and put in the second fast lap to overcome that penalty.
Yeah, the 3 that I've got on my list, it was getting longer by the moment, are all LMP2 cars. So we will get to that when we get to the LMP2 qualifying. Good progress being made by the Pfaff team in putting their bodywork onto that Forte Racing car. The plaid Lamborghini will be, or the Lumborghini as it was called by Nigel Scott-Tubby, who's a big Corvette fan, although did have a Lamborghini in the family for a wee while. I may still have, actually. So 13 cars going out here. It's a long startup lap, Ryan. So we had Ferrari at the top of the last session. Jensen Oldsman's back out again in a Ford Mustang GT3. No spoilers, but I bet he's quite happy after his last bit of driving. Air temperature now is still around about 79, 80 Celsius. The track temperature, which was up to 102, is down to 91 now in the later afternoon here at Road America. That's 33 Celsius. This is not bad, but these are not bad conditions to go on qualifying in. Where do you reckon? Who are we going to see doing well here this afternoon?
Well, we have seen good strength out of the Corvette package across both of the GT classes. Same for the Ferrari. Also, the Windward Racing Mercedes was particularly strong in one of the sessions, too. So those are some of the places to start looking. But also remember, especially in those two lineups that are entered in the Bronze Cup, you might not see the driver that typically would set the fastest lap qualifying these cars. So just because a certain car has been fast in the practices doesn't necessarily mean it will be here in qualifying, because of the way that that the rules are set for the Bronze Cup, and then also even for some of the other lineups, just how they elect to utilize their starting and finishing drivers. But I think another name to throw into the mix would be Parker Thompson with Vassar Sullivan Racing. The Lexus tends to be pretty stout around this place, so we'll see what they can do, if it's any of the names I mentioned, or maybe somebody else pops up to surprise us.
So, simple equation here. No knockouts, no multiple times to worry about, no averages, no driver changes. Although you can change your tyres if you really want to. Might see that in the prototype classes later on. And indeed, peeling into the pits there, the heart of racing, Casper Stevenson, Aston Martin, looks like he's just scrubbed in a set of Michelins and is going for another set in the early moments. But it's a 15-minute dash for pole position. This was instituted quite some years ago now, and it was revolutionary when it first came in. So quite a number of other series have taken a similar or the same route to qualifying. Much better than having the old 45 minutes or an hour where sometimes people would save tyres and not come out until the last 10 minutes to send their gun driver out to do the lap, and then you'd had everybody else out at the same time. And of course, in mixed category racing, that could be difficult for the faster cars. So the classes split up to do their own running. So GTD, which is a completely separate class now from GTD Pro, and is reflected as such when we do the restarts. If we should need to have them, it will be the GTD Pros that go ahead of the GTDs. And indeed, if a GTD car qualifies here faster than any of the GTD Pros do later, that will not be reflected in how we roll to the green flag tomorrow. All of the GTD Pro cars, regardless of their time set, will start ahead of all of the GTDs, in the same way that all of the GTPs will start ahead of all the LMP2s, giving the delineation, the stratification, as the UCO call it, of the classes, so splitting up the different groups. It's a little bit more complicated with GTD and GTD Pro because the cars themselves have exactly the same performance potential. It's only the driver teams that push them into the different categories. Right, now that we've put all that right, let's look at the timing screen, because we're about to have the first flying lap set. And as we were talking Lamborghini, it is Wayne Taylor Lamborghini who heads over the top of the rise and sets a 2 minutes 11.388 on my Alcamel timing screen. You can follow along if you're watching or listening on IMSA Radio or IMSA TV or on YouTube. Livetiming.alcamelsystems.com, and you'll find the IMSA pages on there. You can get the tracker, you get the timing pages, you can get a whole load of information, and there's an additional page for the GTPs that includes the hybrid usage as well. Ryan is looking at the split times as well. Misha Goikberg goes to the top, but Parker Thompson's done a very good sector 1 in the Vassar Sullivan Racing number 12, Ryan.
Yeah, he has. So we're starting to see
Russell
the pace
Ward
pick
to the
up.
top.
Yeah, that's a good shout there. The Mercedes looking strong again. That's really the first representative time we've seen, and even then, that's still quite a ways off of the best GT times we've seen so far this weekend. About 1.2 seconds more still to find. So we'll see. I think we'll know in the next couple of laps who's really on it.
Track limits for the number 45 Dex Imaging, Wayne Taylor Racing car. The rule here at Road America is that graded area at the outside of turn number 1, so long as you've got a part of a Michelin tyre on there, you're still on the track. And if you have all 4 tyres over the edge, you're off the circuit and you will have your lap time disallowed. So 2:05.4, expect to see some 2:04s in there. The race lap record, as all of the class race lap records were set back in 2023, a year after the repave, or a winter after the repave at least, and that was a 2:04.089. It was Philly Shandorf in the McLaren 720. Expect to see somewhere near that in qualifying trim. The Triazi competition have been down the pit lane. Patrick Gallagher's been down the pit lane for Turner. Adam Adelson's been down the pit road. I thought actually I saw the Aston Martin going through as well, but clearly I didn't. Casper Stevenson with a big fat 0 next to his pits column, and it's just done a 2:04.324. That's more like it, Ryan.
Yeah, that's close to the best time we've seen, which this is a GTD Pro time, but again, it's GT3 spec cars across the board, so it's still a valid reference point. Alexander Sims in practice 2 earlier today did a 2:04.247. That is the fastest GT time across the 2 practice sessions that we've seen so far. And now that has been easily surpassed by Russell Ward, who has gone to the top. The first into the 2:03 bracket this weekend. That is a monster of a lap.
Half a second quicker. That is extraordinary. And here's Parker Thompson in the Lexus. Not a hint of a lift through the kink, as Russell Ward's going for another one. He's just come through turn 5 under the Corvette bridge, turns left-handed into turn 6. And Russell Ward, the man at the top of Winwood Racing. Amazing to chronicle what they have achieved since that team was formed. They've got their new European headquarters at just outside a place called Altenbach in Germany, and that is where they run the DTM, the Works DTM program for Mercedes-Benz. So they've been given a lot of responsibility. Very smooth by Russell Ward, and with only 13 cars on the track, Ryan, plenty of room out there. And they have split themselves up pretty well around the track.
No excuse here not to, right? With 4 miles of real estate to play with and just the 13 cars. They'll be enjoying this because it's not going to be like this hardly at all tomorrow in the race. We even saw in the practice sessions just how crowded this track can be with nearly 50 cars entered, and Ward has gone faster still on this most recent lap. He found another half a tenth or so to get down to a 2:03.7.
Alton Dietz, sorry, for Winwood Racing in Europe. Beautiful part of the world down there. They had a great facility before they moved into another larger premises. Third place for Onofrio Triazi. Half a second only between the top 3, 3/4 of a second back to Robert Wickens, who's been a bit of a qualifying maestro in the DXDT Chevrolet Corvette. runs with the Bosch hand control system that Robert and the team, and indeed his previous team as well at Hyundai Ryan Herter Racing, helped to develop. And everybody bar Ori Fadani in the AWA last time around put their fastest lap of the session in. And Ryan, we've still got 4 minutes to go here.
Yeah, time for a couple more flying laps. That is one of the challenges of Road America. Even in a 15-minute session, you just don't get that many bites at the apple because it takes a long time to get around. And so by the time you've got everything in the window that you wanted, you really have to make it count if you possibly can, because you might not get another shot at it, especially if there's any interruption of any kind. And when we get to the LMP2 qualifying, where a few of the cars will have to qualify based on their second fastest lap due to indiscretions in previous practice sessions, that's one of the challenges that they face. Just making sure you've got the car in the window where you want it and to have enough time to do it not once but twice. That's a real deficit here, I'd say, more than most places that we go.
Qualifying for GTD for the Motul SportsCar Grand Prix here at Road America. That's a new partnership for Road America here. And remember, next year will be one of the Michelin Endurance Cup races, a 6-hour race. Full endurance back here at Road America. That's we'll stay at 5 races in the Michelin Endurance Cup next year. Indianapolis will revert to a 2-hour and 40-minute race. And this, the closest race to the headquarters of WeatherTech. This is the 10th anniversary of us all gathering in Elkhart Lake in the hotel ballroom for the announcement, the initial announcement of the WeatherTech SportsCar Championship. 10 years, feels like yesterday. Always a pleasure to come here to Road America, and once again this year, more facility improvements. A few years ago it was the walking and golf cart tracks on the way around the circuit, some improvements to the suites here as well. This year, the inward investment keeps on going. And you, the spectators, continue to support this event in your tens of thousands. One lap at the end of this one for Russell Ward if he wants it. Doesn't look like he's going to improve on the splits at the moment. Mercedes, Aston Martin, Ferrari, Chevy Corvette, Lexus, top 5, 3/4 of a second, 5 different manufacturers flat out up to the start-finish line for Russell Ward. He goes through, this is his last flying lap at 2:04.3, half a second away from his best. Is there anybody out there who looks like they could improve, who've got some performance left in the Michelin tyres, Ryan?
And don't forget, Triarci put in a really good middle sector, but it was not enough. He just came around to complete the 3rd sector. Wasn't enough to improve his lap time, still 3rd fastest of the bunch. So much of this lap is spent in that middle sector. Sector 1 is just about 13, 14 seconds. Middle sector comprises a good chunk of the lap, and then the last 30 seconds or so is the 3rd sector. Adam Adelson's putting together a decent lap, but his final sector wasn't quite what he needed, so he's still stuck down there in 11th. Few others starting to light up timing and scoring a bit, as Russell Ward had a good 1st sector personal best. Robert Wickens was even faster in sector 1, so there are still a few out there pushing for a few more extra tenths.
Checkered flag is being displayed at the start-finish line. Of course, anybody who is on a lap will be allowed to finish it, and it will count. 14, number 78, Misha Goikberg in that exceptional blue-coloured Lamborghini Huracan. New GT3 coming for Lamborghini as well. Parker Thompson crosses the line first, then Danny Formal, Casper Stevenson, Ore Fadani, none of them improving their positions or indeed their lap times. Misha Goldberg was the last person to improve for Forte Racing, and oh, he's had a little bit of a problem coming out of turn 14. Was that just dust off the back of the car? Was that something more sinister? They don't need their backup car. Well, it'd be cruel luck for them, wouldn't it, if they'd given away their backup car and they needed it themselves. Looks like Triazi Competition have backed out of it. Doesn't sound to me as though the Ferrari engine was pushing on too hard there. Robert Wickens coming round to complete. Russell Ward has completed his final lap. Quite funny listening to Russell on the radio talking to the team. He said, "Do you want me to come in? I think I've done this as well as I can. Do I need to save the tyres?" The team said, "No, push on." That's great to hear from the team when you're burning off your VP Racing fuel. It's down at turn number 5 now. He'll be back in the pit lane in a wee while. Yeah, he's just winding the car back in. Very good lap. Just over 1/10 of a second ahead of Casper Stevenson. So 2 front-engine cars on the front row there, then 2 mid-engine cars, then a front-engine and a mid-engine car. And Russell's just been told, I think, on the radio that nobody's going to beat his time. Little punch of the air with his right hand in the cockpit. This is the championship leading team, Ryan, and they will want to be in the best starting position that they can get as we run into the last 4 races of the season.
And not just that, don't forget there are qualifying points that are paid out too, and they just scored maximum qualifying points with this pole. So that is a big deal for Russell Ward. His 4th career IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship pole, first of the season. And yeah, they've been fast all weekend long. Philip Ellis was a rocket ship in practice 1. Conditions very similar to these, I think it's worth noting, in practice 1. So perhaps not a surprise to see the Mercedes go quick. And tell you what, their strong season continues. They'll have the best starting spot of anyone in class tomorrow.
Russell is having a great couple of seasons. Splits his time between driving the car and running the team. He tells me running the team is far harder work than driving the car. Does quite a lot of the logistics as well, based in Texas in the US, and on dates, as I said, in central Germany. Drove down there a few years ago to have a look at the previous factory. I suspect I might have to do it again. Has some very lovely scenery, some great roads, and some great places to go and eat. So he'll pull down to the end of the pit lane for the formalities, kicks the car into neutral. Phil Ellis, the Swiss driver, and Netherlands driver Indy Donci's name also on that car. Philip Ellis really developing his skills, was thought of at one stage as a bit of a Nürburgring Nordschleife specialist. And he's far more than that as a racing driver, and he's proved that in the States over and over. Arjuna will wait for our colleagues at NBC Sports, I presume. He'll be there first to do their interview. And then we'll have a word with the provisional pole sitter. Subject, of course, as we always have to say at this point, to post-qualifying tech. And it really is something for everybody here at Road America. Very challenging go-kart circuit, which can be configured in about 127 different ways. It is the Paul Ricard of go-kart circuits. Slightly more elevation, in fairness, and not quite as much coloured paint around the edges, but you get my meaning, Ryan.
Yeah, spot on. You know, it's many times since I've been to Road America, I've never been able to drive around on the go-kart track, so I need to amend that one of these days.
Oh, you're kidding me.
No.
Like, oh, you're too small and slight. There's no way I'm going up against you.
Challenge accepted, Aaron.
Producer up in Concord in our ASN. I'll take him on. Well, I got back down to under 101 kilos today. My old race weight was about 85. I don't think I would do that without some major surgery. But it'd be nice to get down under 100 kilos, which is what, 225 in pounds. Considering I was up at 225 kilos for a wee while. That wasn't acceptable. Power to weight ratio just meant I was carrying my own success ballast everywhere I went. Well, Russell Ward being congratulated by the team and now able to talk to our journey down at the end of pit lane. Pole position for GTD in tomorrow's Motul Grand Prix.
He's qualified, or the car has qualified 3 times in second place this year, but finally up front to start tomorrow's 2-hour and 40-minute sprint. Russell Ward, was there much time left in that lap?
You know, I don't think so. I mean, that was as fast as I think we've ever driven here, period. You know, we've been here 4 times, and I think that's the fastest lap by probably like 6 or 7 tenths that we've ever done. So, you know, I don't think anyone can go faster.
Obviously, championship's got to be at the front of many people's minds. It's you versus Lexus versus Heart of Racing, and qualifying points may be somewhat important. You've extended that championship lead. What's the mindset going into tomorrow's race?
Yeah, you know, I mean, just keep it clean and let the race come to us. I mean, it's a pretty long race. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes. A lot can happen. And, you know, we're starting in a really good position. But, I mean, we've got the back end of the GTD Pro field up front. And, you know, as we've seen in past races, I mean, you know, sometimes they don't have it and sometimes the front of the GTD field does. So, you know, I think it's going to be, you know, a tricky first couple of laps. Hopefully, you know, we can settle into a nice rhythm and, you know, just finish the race where we started.
I know a lot of your time is not just dedicated to driving the car, but keeping the team running as well. Is it nice to be able to put the helmet on, strap in for qualifying, and just go fast?
You know, that's what it's all about. I mean, it's a lot of pressure, but, you know, I feed off of that, and, you know, just really thankful to all the guys, you know, all the guys and girls who have my back.
Congrats on a 4th WeatherTech pole.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, good point. Gets to zone out when the helmet goes on. You can't be thinking of, oh, hang on, did I book those flights? What about the transporter? The hotel room? No, you can't be thinking of that, Ryan, when you're heading down the hill to turn 5 or about to go through the kink flat out in a GT3 car.
No, it takes total focus, and I think that has to be part of the reason why so many super successful businessmen and women turn to motorsport as a form of escape, right? This is their one place where they can't be reached by their horde of personal assistants to deal with this or that. When they're in the car, they're focused on just the driving, and that has to be a wonderful escape for people for whom escape is probably pretty hard to come by.
I've just spent 2 days doing logistics for Radio Show Limited, booking flights for the rest of this year and starting to plan for what is a very busy January, February and March 2026. And all I really want to do in the next couple of days is put my motorcycle helmet on and head out around the lanes back at home at Northamptonshire or a little bit further afield. I've got a couple of days more work to do before I can do that. But yes, I think that's a very good point that you make there. I'm not quite as cut off because the BMW GT that I've got does have Bluetooth and still have my telephone plugged in, so I can be reached if required. I can always turn the phone off. Right, you've seen the process now. Rinse and repeat. GTD Pro now. cars. Let me give you the qualifying drivers. Madison Snow in Paul Miller Racing number 1, Alexander Sims in Corvette number 3, number 4 Corvette is Tommy Milner. Aaron Thielitz in Vassar Sullivan Lexus RCF GT number 14, Dan Harper for Paul Miller Racing's number 48, Mike Rockenfeller for Ford Multimatic Ford Mustang GT3 in the 64, Chris Meese in the 65, Klaus Bachler for EO Racing's Porsche, Dragon Speed, Giacomo Altoe, just waiting for Pfaff Motorsports. Oh, no, Pfaff Motorsports won't be going out because, of course, they're still rebuilding the car into their spec, thanks to Forte. So 9 cars. And Aaron Stevens informs us that the streak goes on in GTD Pro with 10 different pole-sitting drivers in 10 races for GTD Pro. That is, in some ways, Ryan, that is an extraordinary vote of confidence, if you will, on the technical staff who devise balance of performance. Nobody has dominated over a single lap in the last 10 races.
I think it is a tremendous vote of confidence and showcases just how good those folks are at what they do. I think we take it for granted just how difficult this is to try and balance all these different types of cars. We're so accustomed to it being done really, really well that you almost forget this is actually a massive challenge. I mean, just look at this Ford Mustang versus the Porsche that's in front of it versus the mid-engine Corvette or the Ferrari or the big old BMW. Such a technical challenge to try and find some common ground between all these different platforms, and although they might make their speed in different ways and some might struggle to maintain that speed over the course of a full stint more than others, at the end of a single lap, those stats are telling. To have 10 different pole sitters in the last 10 races, just remarkable.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the fastest lap in races, it would be a somewhat similar story as well. I mean, the philosophies behind these cars are quite different in some cases. Never mind the frontal area of something, say, like a BMW or a Ford Mustang with a big V8 engine in the front, albeit sitting very low and very far back in the race car. And then a McLaren or a Ferrari or a Corvette, as you say, with a mid-engine with far lower slung front end, or the rear-engine Porsche, of course, the classic 911, which in itself is something completely different. So what we're really looking at in these 15-minute sessions is the ability of the teams to set the car up to the driver's liking. The drivers, first of all, to be able to switch on the Michelin tyres and get the best out of it, and then to execute flawlessly, or as close to flawlessly as is possible. We are talking about ridiculous margins here. This was the fastest lap for the guys last time around, 2:03, so 123 seconds. And between the top 10, there was 2 seconds. 1.5 between the top 9. So work out the percentages on that. That's for nothing. And if you look at the sharp end of the grid, we had 4 cars within half a second. So we are talking fractions of percentage points here in terms of producing a performance in yourself as a driver and tuning the car to your likes, needs and wants to get as much of the car's performance and your performance out at the same time. It is incredible. Oh, big overshoot at turn 1 for Chris Meese. Don't think he's going to get that lap. It's well outside the striations of the turn 1 extended curve as such. I did some back of the envelope calculations earlier on this year for the WEC, and IMSA are pretty much exactly the same in terms of the low margins. And the difference between getting into Superpole, Hyperpole, i.e. in the top 10 for the hypercars, was 0.8%. And at the end of the race, after, that was Qatar actually, the first race of the season, so 1,812 kilometres, the difference between being in the points, again, the top 10 or out of the points, was just over 1% across the whole race. And that's what we're talking about nowadays, Ryan. Not just exceptional performances once at one corner, but it's over 2 hours and 40 minutes, it's over 4 hours, it's over 6 hours, it's over 10 hours, it's over 24 hours, it's over 12 hours at the Mobile One 12 hours of Sebring. We are seeing here performances of a very high caliber every week, right throughout the field.
Yeah, teams and drivers executing at the absolute top end of performance. And that's also why I think we see the crowds coming out like they do. The crowds in these IMSA races continue to grow year on year. The atmosphere is tremendous, and the draw is you get to see the best of the best executing at a super high level. It's fantastic, and we've got that on display all year long, and it's rolled right into Road America based on what we've seen so far in practice and the little bit of qualifying that we've seen.
IMSA have rolled out their new advertising and PR campaign with the tagline of "Move Over," sort of emphasising multi-class racing and the fact that IMSA is on the rise and perhaps ready to take on some of the other forms of motor racing. Possibly it should be Top Gun, because it is the best of the best. And I'm not sure we need to compare sports car racing in IMSA or the FIA World Endurance Championship with anything else, because they are an entity in and of themselves. And I remember the absolutely lovely Charlie Lamb of Schnitzer pulling me to one side once, in fact asking me to go and see him at Canadian Time Motorsport Park in the Schnitzer BMW hauler, and I thought, oh, what have I done? I've upset Charlie. Sat me down, gave me a cup of excellent coffee, always had a good coffee machine in there, and he just basically wanted to chat. It was great. We sat and talked about things and the state of the sport. Such a friendly paddock, still is, and he came up with a great quote that has stayed with me ever since, which is, there are only two types of people in the world as far as I'm concerned. Those who like, enjoy and understand endurance racing, and everybody else. And I've taken that on, and it is something that's not for everybody, I understand that, but my goodness, if you like it, and those of you who are here this weekend and are tuned in now, if you're prepared to give up your time, a considerable amount of time, what we've already been on the air 10 hours today, then you do like it, and you're prepared to immerse yourself in it. Just a little off-track moment, a couple of seconds ago for Klaus Bachler, as Giacomo Altoia for Dragon Speed gets a 2:04.448. That's only good enough for 5th in GTD, but that puts him in provisional pole for GTD Pro. But we have 5.5 minutes still to run, Ryan, and ultimately, even if he got no further than that, all of these GTD Pros would still start ahead of the GTDs and Russell Ward. However, Alexander Sims going even quicker.
Yeah, and actually both of them now are on an even faster lap than their previous one. Sims and his Corvette would have provisional pole as they run here with 5 minutes and change on the clock, but Tommy Milner just did the overall best first sector in the sister Corvette. Looks like Aaron Thielitz had a pretty good first sector too, so timing and scoring starting to light up. I think these could be the push laps here in GTD Pro, so let's keep an eye on timing and scoring with just under 5 minutes left in the session.
This is the 5th lap out and past the pits, so effectively probably the 3rd or 4th push lap. And we're talking about testament to various things earlier on. Testament to the Michelin tyres used here that can continue to give outstanding pace and consistency when being pushed by some of the best GT drivers in the world. Hello to Alan Prosser, the brilliantly monitored Lanzarote Camel. Alan down in Wales, just back from work. Works in a very nice hostelry. Ooh. I need to have a word with you, Alan, actually. Because I've got a Ford Nugget next week, and you've got a campsite next to your pub, haven't you? And I need somewhere to try the Nugget out. Which is a camper van, for those that don't know. I'm following the footsteps of Ben Barnicat, not Ben Barnicat, one of the Ford drivers who took the Ford Nugget instead of a Raptor or anything else. And I know Alan's pub does a very good evening meal, so I'll be in touch after this race weekend. Now the Dragon Speed gets closer to Russell Ward's time, 2:03.904. I don't think we're going to see a 2:02, Ryan, but we could get a mid 2:03 from these pro drivers in the GTD Pro class cars.
Yeah, they're not slowing down, are they? So Altoe just went to P1 in GTD Pro. He is within a fraction of a second, just about a tenth and a half away from Russell Ward's time from GTD, qualifying just a little bit ago. Alexander Sims, provisionally second in class, just did the overall best first sector, so keep an eye on him. Chris Meese is on a decent lap as well. So we're inching a little bit quicker with each passing lap, but that lap from Russell Ward, he came out and told Arjuna, didn't he? I don't think anybody can go faster. I think that probably extends to the GTD Pro drivers, right?
He might be right. In the UK, just coming up to 20 minutes past 11. So good evening to Emma Ladiman. She's tuned in and watching the qualifying. The dog, not so much. Walk him up. Hi, Emma. See you at COTA for WEC in a few weeks' time. Sports car community online and watching and listening to this WeatherTech SportsCar Championship Motul SportsCar Grand Prix qualifying. It is a community across the different championships. Again, going back to that comment about Charlie Lamb, you either get it or you don't. But for those who do get it, it's a disease, an obsession, something you immerse yourself in. Look, it's the minutiae of what is going on. Looks like Mike Rockenfeller has called it a day for Ford Multimatic Motorsport in the Mustang GT3. He'll be no better than 8th in class, behind 9 GTD cars. That'll be a disappointment for them. Aaron Teelet's still running. He's further back still. Chris Meese just improves his time and goes to 6th. But again, still behind 7 GTD cars. Hasn't changed that much on track, Ryan, since we had the GTDs out. I think some of the GTD Pro teams will be counting their blessings here that this is a split grid now, because Jacopo Altoe, along with Alexander Sims and Tommy Milner, who would be in the top 5 if we grid them on time, are way ahead of everybody else in terms of how they grid up. Dan Harper's next up for Paul Miller Racing BMW, and he is 10th in the GTD combined class, if you like.
The other side of that coin is I don't think the GTD Pro guys are that thrilled about the way this is shaping up, because they're going to have some traffic to contend with at the start of this race. Checkered flag waves, so anyone on a flying lap here will get to finish it off. But yeah, that could make for a hairy start to the race tomorrow.
I'm just hearing that we were talking about Emma Ladiman, who's a BMW Team WRT PR one of the hard-working PR reps that travel the world. Simon Strang from Aston Martin is also listening. It's his birthday party tonight. Now, that's what I call dedication. I'm not saying he's watching, but he's got an earpiece in of some description. And hello to Sems, Ali Sems, where it's 1:20 in the morning tomorrow. He's speaking to us from Egypt, from our future. He says, I'm not going to be overly happy having to wake up early tomorrow, but come on, Lexus. Well, your Lexus, I'm afraid, 5th for Parker Thompson, and where's the Pro car? Aaron Thielitz down in 9th in GTD Pro. That's 18th. Simon Strang's wife's birthday, excuse me. Oh, that makes it worse. That makes it worse. You meant... Oh, Simon, do I have to explain this to you? Strangy, I've known you for a long time. Oh, my goodness me. I never mentioned you, Simon. You're not listening. If only Simon Strang from Aston Martin was listening in right now. Happy birthday to Mrs. S. I hope you've given her a lovely, lovely day on a Saturday in the UK. At IMSA Radio, we're talking about the community. Great to have the community with us. Just gone through 1 million subscribers on the YouTube channel, the official YouTube channel of IMSA. It's been part of the American sports car scene for free coverage since Don Pano's instituted Petit Le Mans in 1998 and the American Le Mans Series in 1999 for the fans. And whilst sadly Don has long since left us, the good thing is that IMSA has not changed that one iota. And we've always been free to air here on IMSA Radio, and the streaming international world feed extended from the player on IMSA Radio onto YouTube. And I know many of you still watch on the player on IMSA Radio, but YouTube obviously making things even more user-friendly. And just clicked over 1 million subscribers. Chris Suku using his Le Mans setup with the projector on the wall in Royal Leamington Spa. And we have a pole sitter, Giacomo Altoe, for the Dragon Speed, which is the Stars and Stripes, sort of. It's the evil... I always think of this as the Evel Knievel livery. You think of the leathers that Evel Knievel used to wear on his stunts, the white leathers with the blue stripes and the white stars. So Russell Ward, Ryan, has the undisputed honour of being the fastest GT driver, faster than all the pros. And that is going to be a feather in his cap tonight.
Oh, yeah, and he called that shot, didn't he? I bring it up again. He said to Arjuna, not only do I think I couldn't do any better, I don't think anybody could do any better, and he's been proven correct with the fastest GT time. For Giacomo Altoe, it's his second career WeatherTech Championship pole. He got his first at Laguna Seca earlier this year, a race where they finished runners-up, and although Giacomo's not doing the full season, his teammate Albert Costa is, and came in 53 points behind the Alexander Sims-Antonio Garcia pairing, and just got 5 points closer by virtue of qualifying first to their second in this race. So that championship tightens up a little bit more in GTD Pro.
And Albert Costa topped one of the timesheets as well earlier on, and that was his time that he set earlier on. He is putting in a decent pace himself. He was part way through. I don't think it was all the way to the end. Madison Snow improved at the end, as did Chris Meese. But I'm going to say this and possibly upset a few GT Pro drivers. Not sure what was going on, but really only Alexander Sims and Giacomo Altoe getting anywhere near the top of the standings. Tommy Milner as well, actually. Next best was 10th best time with 6 GTDs ahead of him. Dan Harper in 4th place. Madison Snow with 7 GTDs ahead of him, same as Chris Mace. Then Klaus Bachler for the championship contending EO Racing team with 9 GTD cars with a better single lap time, including Brendan Arieb for the Inception Racing Ferrari, who's a Bronze Cup driver. Then Aaron Tielitz and Mike Rockenfeller. Man, I tell you, those are some teams who are going to either say qualifying doesn't matter because we're going to be in front of all those cars tomorrow anyway, or they're going to be scratching their head. Let's get down to Dragon Speeds, to the man with the big number 81 on his back, and it's the number 1 part of that that's the important one here. Giacomo Altoe is pole for the GTD Pros, but not the fastest time, although he will lead the GTD field to the green flag tomorrow in his Dragon Speed Ferrari. Here's our tuner.
And it is a second IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship pole as he celebrates with his partner as well. And an important pole position, John, knowing this will take the championship lead down to under 50 points. Giacomo, as he continues to celebrate, was there any more time in that lap?
Honestly, it was really on the limit. I said, okay, this is the right lap with the tire window and so on. So I said, okay, I'm gonna give it all. And yeah, I saw once again the gap was really tight, so I did my best, and we are there, so that's good.
I know you've got some good memories winning GTD Pro in this class in a Ferrari last year. What's your expectations for the race tomorrow?
Honestly, we just focus on our job. Here in IMSA, everything can happen, so we just try to do our best. We're starting in the front, which is a big help for sure, but you never know. So we just push, we just focus on our things, and I'm sure that Albert will bring the car home in the best place possible. So.
And obviously the first full season for the team in this IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship. To be fighting for the title with just a handful of races to go, how cool is that?
It's so cool, it's so cool. Honestly, yeah, we started with this new project this year, and it feels amazing because the cooperation with between the team, engineers, driver, my teammate, everybody, so it's been amazing so far, and we try to keep improving to the end.
Congratulations, good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Hello to Andrew in Perth, Australia, who's off to Bahrain for the WEC final. Might get to see you there, I'll be there for that. He says, I love IMSA and love all sports car racing. Also, so it must be early morning in Perth now, to Katarin, who is cheering for the Porsches on race day, enjoying their birthday watching WeatherTech SportsCar Championship. Thank you for tuning in. And Randy Brown, who's about to be back at his station, says, I might have to turn off the rest of qualifying. The Blue Angels are about to be flying for the final practice before the big air show tomorrow in Seattle, so I won't be able to hear you. Posted a couple of videos of the Blue Angels from yesterday up there in Seattle for the big show tomorrow. 2 more classes to go. 2 more 15-minute sessions. Russell Ward with the fastest GT time. That is a real achievement. He wrung the time out of that car, 2:03.745. Race lap record here is a 2:04.0 in the race. Fred Shandoff for McLaren back in 2023. Giacomo Altoe, pole for GTD Pro with a 2:03.904. Interestingly, Giacomo's lap, I think, came 1 lap later, maybe 2 laps later than Russell's. So a different attitude, or at least process, Ryan, to the tyre warm-up on the from the 2 different categories. Although same tyre, same car, at least same tyre, same car classification.
Right, I do wonder if it might be a little bit of a difference between the Ferrari and the Mercedes, or just the way that the teams approached it. But in any event, it certainly worked for Russell. And just looking at the split times, the different sectors, where he had a decided advantage on Autoway was in Sector 3. He was so fast through Sector 3, significantly better than anybody else. So let's file that away as a potential strength of that Mercedes and see if that carries over into the race tomorrow.
Yeah, Alexander Sims fastest in Sector 1. In Sector 2, so that was in the Corvette. In Sector 2 is the Aston Martin advantage of Casper Stevenson, and in Sector 3, Russell Ward. So, interestingly, the Ferrari not quickest in any of the sectors, excuse me, but still claimed the GTD Pro pole position. Right, let me quickly refresh my timing screen so I can give you some drivers. Actually, it's relatively easy to give you the drivers here because it has to be the bronze or air bronze rated driver. So Phil Fayer for United Autosports number 2, George Kurtz for the 04 CrowdStrike by APR, John Ferrano for Tower Motorsports, Stephen Thomas for TDS Racing, and already a spin down at turn 5 for Jerry Croughton, JDC Miller Motorsports. Orica, that's the 79 red, black and lighter blue car. Toby Lütke for Era Motorsport in the number 18 car. Daniel Goldberg in the 22 for United Autosports USA. Jeremy Clark in the 44 into Europol. Yellow and green car PR1. Have Naveen Rao at the wheel of the 52 car. Tonis Kazabets for Team Tonis, the number 61 car. Chris Cumming for Pratt Miller in the 73 car. Robinson in the 74. Riley, the 79 Jerry Kraut we've mentioned. Luis Perez Companc, the 88 AF Corsa car, PJ Hyatt for the number 99 LMP2 for AO Racing Spike the Dragon. Drivers that will have to do more than one fast lap. Phil Fayer in the number 2 United Autosports car, his teammate in the 22 Daniel Goldberg, and in the number 11 TDS, Stephen Thomas. They all caught red flags in one or other of the free practice sessions, so their best lap in qualifying will not count. That is the penalty. Waiting for the cars to get up to speed, so hello to CJG Corey. With the new LMP2 engines and chassis, do you think there's some point have electric motors with them? The idea is not to add the complication of hybrids to LMP2, which is why the new regulations don't have them. Keep your questions coming in at IMSA Radio. So LMP2s should be faster than all the GTD cars, but even if they're not, if something goes wrong, then they will start ahead of all the GTD Pros, which will start ahead of all the GTDs, but they will start behind all of the GTPs, which will be the last set of cars to qualify in around about 15 minutes' time. Coming towards the end of the Orica LMP2 07's reign as top chassis combination, the Gibson V8 engine as well. Although the good news is Gibson have been selected, I think rightly so, to provide the engines for the new LMP2 category, the new chassis. 2 chassis manufacturers there. Ultimately, one of them will be better than the other. The question is, nobody knows at the start. It's not a spec class, although it's turned out to be one. Sean Creech Motorsport were running the Ligier until last year. What times are we looking for here, Ryan? Are we looking in a sub 2 minutes or somewhere around about 2 minutes at least?
The best time we've seen so far this weekend from LMP2 belongs to Mikkel Jensen, and it was a 1:52.7. So, yes, is the short answer. Definitely sub 2 minutes, and that was nipping at the heels of the back of the GTP field, interestingly enough. So that, at least some of those that were struggling for pace, these LMP2s, they can move. There's no doubt about it. We've seen that from time to time. There are certain sections of the track where they're a little quicker than the GTPs, And when driven by the pros especially, they're really fast. Now, I'm not sure we're going to see a time quite that low. That was a pro driver in this is a Pro-Am class, and as you mentioned, it's the bronze drivers that are doing the qualifying here by rule. But I do still think that we can see plenty of sub 2-minute times here in the next 9.5 minutes.
Already 8 of the LMP2s are quicker than Russell Ward's fastest GT time. Been a strange couple of sessions for LMP2. In the first 1.5 hours we had on Friday, a number, Ryan, of the top contenders really didn't show any kind of pace at all. I mean, I'm not saying they were 10 seconds off, they weren't, but the guys at EO Racing and also CrowdStrike were well down the field. They came back in the second session. Daniel Goldberg goes to the top. He's one of the drivers who will lose his fastest lap. He's there for about half a second because Jeremy Clark for Inter-Europol competition has just gone to the top with a 56, so still a bit of time to go there. Luis Perez Compact from a rally winner, rally championship winner for AF Corsa. Now to the top with 55.995 for AF Corsa. Tunis Kazimist with a 56.2, second place. Of course, we have to say hello to Tom Dillman, who was tuned in earlier on. Tom, with that bizarre accident at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park when leading the race in this very chassis for Inter-Europol competition. Jeremy Clark behind the wheel of the yellow and green car now took him out of the race, and it's probably ended the season, I think, for Tom. He's starting some rehabilitation. Had to have an operation on the vertebrae in his back after going into the wall pretty hard as he was climbing the hill up towards turn number 3-4 at turn number 3 really at CTMP. Tom was tuned in earlier in the weekend. I'm sure he'll be watching this, and we wish you all the best from the sports car community. So now just waiting to see if there's any tyre changes as well here. Adam says, what do we think of the potential AO Racing entry in the GTP class? It would be a new character to add to their roster and another welcome car on the grid, by all I imagine. Well, apparently, the internet has already deemed that that has got to be a shark with the fin on the back of these cars, which I think is quite funny. There was a name suggested as well, but I'll leave EO to come up and let everybody know that as well. The strong intel from the paddock is that any additional private entry here in IMSA would be contingent on whether Porsche Penske Motorsport continue into next year, with the suggestion that if they do, there will not be any extra private cars made available for 2026. However, if they don't, then that is the potential. I am led to believe by highly informed sources that the current Penske contract to run the 963 in both IMSA and the WEC expires at the end of this year. Now, Porsche, whatever they may have done in private, are unlikely to even talk about that until they make an announcement, which is normally end of November, beginning of December. That is where they confirm the next year's programmes, even if we kind of know what's going on. And also the other big change in the GTP category is that WRT, the Belgian team of Vincent Voss and Yvette will take over the running of the BMWs that are being run at the moment by Team RLL. That requires them to have a base over here, which they are in the process of doing at the moment. And if you want to keep up with all of that kind of news, then you need to be on sportscar365.com. John Daggis and the rest of the team are plugged in, wandering around the paddock, talking to people, the sort of things that we don't get to do because we're locked in a broadcast booth for 10 hours on a Saturday on a very short leash. Right, we've had we're down to 53 now for PJ Hyatt, 53.2, and that's a second better than George Kurtz, and 0.020 ahead of Daniel Goldberg. So that's three of the heavy hitters back to the top. This is what we expected earlier in the weekend, but didn't get to see in some respects, Ryan.
Yeah, exactly. It's taken a little while for it to sift out, but no surprise to see some of these names up towards the front. Hyatt going for his third straight WeatherTech Championship pole. George Kurtz, he's certainly on it right now and has been a stout competitor for a number of years. Dan Goldberg, who's a title favorite, I think, at this stage in the season, but he's one that will need to set 2 fast laps, having brought out a red a little bit earlier. But amazing to see Tonis Kasemets, I say this only because the team is new to LMP2. Tonis is plenty experienced and has driven a lot at Road America in particular. But for that new team to be sitting 4th right now, and I don't think that the penalty's been factored in for Goldberg, so that would see him jump up into 3rd. That is really impressive for Tonis and the Team Tonis team.
Down to just 2.5 minutes to go. Slower lap by PJ, maybe just letting the Michelins cool down a wee bit. That's a decent gap now, 0.8 of a second, 1:53.2. George Kurtz, just 0.179 of a second ahead of 1:54.1 last time around. Daniel Goldberg, of course, will lose his fastest time, as will Stephen Thomas in 3rd and 4th. With Phil Fayer losing his fastest time as well. And what I don't know is whether that's already been taken into consideration by the very clever people at Al Kamel. I suspect that will happen at the end. So we might see some changes after the checkered flag. So stick with us. Jake Parrott asking any inkling of where in the USA WRT base will be. Again, the smart money. We were talking about this in one of our earlier programmes, Ryan, weren't we? Somewhere up towards Charlotte or North Carolina, that kind of area. I do know of a bit of space in an already built facility in Indianapolis that has room for 3 or 4 sports car chassis. If Vincent wants to ask, I could put him in touch. The fact that BMW continue makes Aaron, our producer in Concord, very happy indeed. PJ Hyatt goes to a 53.240, just edging another sliver, sharpening the razor blade, if you will, in Spike the Dragon. Now, nearly 0.9 of a second ahead of George Kurtz, but we know George is absolutely at his best, Ryan, when he has to pull out the lap. Well, this is it now. This is his last lap.
We've seen that from him over the years. When the pressure is on, he rises to the challenge. Was pretty good through Sector 1, but again, that's such a small sample size, just 12 seconds in these LMP2 cars. That's all you spend in Sector 1. Now he's in the meat of the lap here in Sector 2, still pushing on. Needs to find a big amount of time, though. 0.8 of a second, that's no small feat. Boy, that's a real challenge here, but George, he's proven to be up to it plenty of times in the past.
Checkered flag is out, so next time by is the last time by. No second chances. Jerry Kraut goes through. 14th position for him. I reckon all 14 of the P2s ahead of Russell Ward's time, though. So that's all right. We've got the right stratification between GTs and the LMP2s at least. George Kurtz absolutely flat through the kink. Now coming down to Canada corner. Through the two little left kinks. Down through the gearbox. That's very smooth. What does the time say? Runs across the ripple strips on the outside of Canada corner. Over the top of the tunnel. Now into turn 14. Kisses the yellow and red curb on the inside. Now on the outside. And now it's just the run to the line. PJ Hyatt has pitted. So the 153.2 is what is there to beat. George Kurtz comes to the line. Goes through and he does improve, but it's a 53.9. So takes 2/10 off his best time, but still 0.666 away from pole position. He had the devil of a job trying to catch up with PJ Hyatt and Spike the Dragon, already on his way to the pole position spot at the end of the pit lane. So Daniel Goldberg's best time a 54.2, and we'll see if that gets taken away. Phil Fay is still to complete his lap. Who else was going to get a lap taken away? Oh, Stephen Thomas was the other one, wasn't it? So we'll see whether those are adjusted. Daniel Goldberg's 154.323 was his last lap. So I presume he'll lose that. Question is, was he better than a 54.9, which is Team Tonis and Tony Kazimets? That's a really good run by Tonis Kazimets, isn't it? To fourth position there with a 54.9.
Super impressive, like I say, for a team that is brand new to LMP2 racing. They did some testing here at Road America, which I understand wasn't entirely trouble-free, so that's had them on the back foot a little bit, but still, for a team that's most recent WeatherTech start, and I believe its only WeatherTech start, was here in an LMP3 car something like 4 years ago. This is remarkable to jump into the hornet's nest that is LMP2 and IMSA right now, and to be able to put together that kind of performance. Tonis, that pace is really strong, and he's got young Matt Brabham as his co-driver, so do not sleep on them to get a good result come tomorrow's race. That is fantastic from the new team.
Again, the word on the street, or the word in the paddock perhaps I should say, is that that will be a full-time team next year, which is great news for both Tonis and particularly for Matt Brabham, who seems to have been overlooked down through the years for drives that I think he was eminently qualified and skilled to do. Good to have the Brabham name back in American racing. And we wish them well in putting that together for Team Tonis for 2026. Entries will be opening fairly shortly, actually, for 2026 for the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship. Full season entries and Endurance Cup entries will be given priority. Talking to IMSA, they expect to be oversubscribed again, as they were this year. And that is an incredible thing to say. That I think that would be the if it does happen, I think that'll be the third straight year that the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship has had more people wanting to compete than spaces that they can give. And speaks volumes, much more than we can ever say, about the health, the rude health that sports car racing across the world, but particularly here in the US, is in at the moment. When you look at all of the big races, whether it's here in the US or Le Mans, the sizes of the crowd, 330 or 340,000 people at Le Mans this year. Incredible. That's gone up 100,000 since the laws of since the highs of before COVID. It's gone up 100,000 on that. PJ Hyatt is out of the car, being congratulated, rightly so. A 153.240 for PJ, and over half a second, Arjuna, up on his closest rival. George Kurtz gave him a run. Daniel Goldberg in third, but it spiked the Dragon's driver. How did he train that Dragon? Maybe you ask him that.
PJ, you're a machine in qualifying in these LMP2 cars. That's now 7 poles in your last 11 races and 3 on the bounce as well. You were fastest in all 3 sectors. Was there much more time for you to find?
To be honest, at that lap towards the end there, I thought I could have gone quicker, but I can't be too upset about getting pole again. So it's those little things though that'll keep me up at night thinking about woulda, coulda, shoulda. But I am very, very happy about putting that lap time together.
Obviously, lots of success for the team. The golden tail on Spike, and this is, I think, your home race, right? You're closest to your home base. So it's great to have the fan support. I saw the autograph line. Are you excited about racing tomorrow here?
Absolutely. I think the formation laps at Road America end up being some of the most special time on a racetrack. You can see everybody lined up along the fence all over the racetrack. I absolutely love the fan turnout here. I love seeing all the people show up for our autograph extravaganza this afternoon. And so for me, what a pleasure. Absolute pleasure being here. I love it.
And excited that next year you get to come here and race for 6 hours?
Absolutely. I think that's more time at Road America is more better. Yeah.
And Spike's doing plenty well at the front of the field, John, as PJ Hyatt pole once again in LMP2.
Incredible records, Ryan, for PJ and the team in a category where by mandate the least experienced of the drivers has to qualify. You'd not think that from the standard of drivers that we have here, whether it's PJ or George Kurtz or Daniel Goldberg, Tonis Kazamis, Stephen Thomas as well. And I mean, Luis Perez Companc, inexperienced as far as sports car racing is concerned, but has competed at the highest level down through the years. And PJ puts 0.6 of a second on the field. We're not used to seeing that. That was a special lap here today.
There's been something about PJ when it comes to qualifying, really from the word go, since he started this LMP2 experiment a couple of years ago in various different paddocks. He's always been really quick in qualifying and just excelled again today to have pole by such a margin, like you say. But I think maybe more important for him now is he finally has that IMSA LMP2 win. Got that victory at CTMP. And how many times, John, over the years have we seen someone be close and not quite and then finally break through? And it's something about proving to yourself as much as anything else, yes, I can do it, we can get this done, that then opens the floodgates. And I would not be surprised if we're about to see those win totals start to skyrocket the way that the pole totals have here in recent years.
Yeah, you know, you make a very good point there, a very good point, because we've talked in the other categories, and obviously P2 is the perfect example because it's all the same package. So literally the difference is made by the team and their strategy, but of course the carbon-based landform that is piloting the vehicle. And so much of that, when the cars are the same, and the driver talents are, I mean, honed. Even these non-pro drivers now, they're not just turning up on a Friday, doing the practice session, doing the race, and then go back to work on Monday. That can't happen anymore, not if you want to be anywhere near successful. So all of these drivers are pretty well honed. So what's the difference then? It's consistency and confidence. Consistency in being able to hit the brakes, hit your turning point, hit your acceleration point, hit your exit point. Yeah, clearly, you've got to be able to do that. But to know that you are good enough to be able to win a race against that competition that we've just talked about, I think that's a really important point that you've made about the fact that these non-pro drivers have to be right on their game, but it is the mind part of it that is so important. Let's run through the drivers in GTP. Matt Campbell in Porsche Penske Motorsport, the 963 number 6, their team car, the number 7, locked in a championship battle. Together is Felipe Nasr, Ricky Taylor, no, hasn't gone out yet. Ross Gunn is taking out the Heart of Racing Valkyrie, the number 23 car, the 24 BMW, who else would it be but Dries Vanthoor, qualifying guru at the early part of the season. Jack Aitken's out in the Whelen Cadillac, number 31. Colin Brown has taken out the number 60, the Shades of Blue, ARX 06. Jimmy Bruni is out in the bright yellow, number 85, JDC Miller Motorsports 963. Nick Yellerly in the 93 Acura ARX 06. That's the red, white and black car, the HRC engineered car. And just blocking the number 24 of Dries Vanthoor as they go into the carousel there. Didn't want to give up track position. Just wait to see who else goes out of the pit lane. Number 40's just got out, so that was Jordan Taylor in the other Cadillac. So, is that everybody out now? It was Philippe Albuquerque in the number 10 Cadillac, who I didn't mention because he hadn't left the pits. I just wanted to make sure that he went through. So there we go, everybody out in terms of the 11 GTPs. And remember, if you put into your search engine IMSA GTP telemetry, you'll be able to see how much virtual energy all of those cars have. Jordan Taylor started with less than everybody else. By the look of it, 77 against everybody else is 100. We'll see. More important during the race, of course. So what do we reckon? Third, fourth lap for the absolute push lap here, right?
It's a good question. I would say probably looking around the fourth lap, but I could be proven wrong. We'll find out together in just a little bit. One thing I can say with a greater degree of confidence, though, is you're likely looking at a BMW Acura fight for pole position, at least if form through practice is any indication. We just haven't seen much out of the Cadillac camp. We haven't seen a whole lot out of the Porsche camp. The one exception, though, was in practice one. The Valkyrie was really close to P1. It was less than 1/10 of a second off. They were unable to find the same step forward from practice one to practice two earlier today that the rest of the field did. So that has me a little bit curious what kind of ultimate pace they're going to show here in this session. But the BMW and the Acura have been the class of the field through the two practice sessions, and there's basically nothing to pick between the two of them because the best BMW time is 0.006 of a second better than the best Acura time. That's how close they've been through nearly 3 hours of practice.
Yeah, Sheldon van der Linde, Dries Vanthoor were battling it out earlier on with Renger van der Zande, who's not actually qualifying the car. His car. Which is an interesting choice because we had the three vans at the front. I know Vanthoor is one word, and van der Linde and van der Zande on, but you get the point. So an outlap and one flying lap completed. Still no representative times as we come down to 10.5 minutes to go. Also interested to see who decides to do a tyre change. It's a very distinctive number 40 Dex Imaging Cadillac for Wayne Taylor Racing. Not the year that the return to what was described as their home manufacturer, really, Wayne Taylor Racing and Cadillac. Not the year I think they wanted, but they've started to make some progress. Not, I'm sure, at the speed that Wayne would have liked it to happen, Ryan. But it does seem as though they're beginning to get their heads around Cadillac and how to run it and how to make it go fast for a longer time.
Yeah, it is trending the right direction, and maybe, problems here for Jimmy Bruni in the JDC car. I think he kept it off the concrete. That would be really good news. Yeah, it was really close. They've been struggling all weekend, just haven't found the balance exactly right on that car, and able to get it back on track at the exit of turn 3. I suppose the only good news for the Wayne Taylor team, though, is it's not like Action Express has lit things up either. They get to stand on the podium, but they have been clearly the best out of that Cadillac camp.
That is a super bit of driving by Jimmy Bruni. Locked up the right front Michelin coming down the hill as he was trying to get across to the left-hand side before the right-hander at turn 3. Realised he wasn't going to make the corner, straightened the car up, came off the brakes, on and off the brakes, on and off the brakes. No ABS on these cars. That's the technical term for that is cadence braking. It is supremely counterintuitive when all you want to do is stand on the brakes. He also didn't turn the wheel, which would have loaded up the fronts as well, even when he was on the grass. And then basically just gently coaxed the car away from the barrier on the outside of turn 3. That is genuinely, that's as good a bit of driving as you'll see all day off the track, avoiding an accident, as throwing the car to the corner at 100%. So difficult to rein in your natural instinct to turn the steering wheel more and put the brake pedal through the floor. Brilliant stuff by Jimmy. So Matt Campbell now with a 51.7. Beginning to pick the pace up. That was on his second flying lap. Are we going to see a turnaround for Porsche Penske Motorsport? It's Wayne Taylor's Philippe Albuquerque. Never a driver or a team to count out, but as Ryan said, the Cadillac hasn't really shown at the very top of the timing screens to this point. But we're down to a 50.3. 49.6 is the race lap record going back to 23, Philippe Albuquerque in the ARX 06. Matt Campbell, 49.4. So this is beginning to throw overhands now, with still 7 minutes left. Dries Vanthoor, BMW, 49.0. Wow, this is more like it. We might see then a 48 here in this, with this amount of time to go, Ryan.
We might. We're really, really close. Only we need to find 72 thousandths of a second to crack into the 48s, and Vanthoor was even faster this most recent trip through Sector 1 as well. Not a surprise to see 24 and 93 on top of the standings. These were the fastest two cars across the two practice sessions in the build-up to qualifying, and Vanthoor and Yellowly, according to the sheet I'm looking at, set those times. So they're reprising that role for us here in qualifying. Vanthoor had the bragging rights following practice, but this is where the qualifying points at least get paid.
The fastest non-race lap for GTPs here is a 47.7 lap record, of course. That can only be set in the race, but just to give you an idea, and if we go back a little bit further, the race lap records, I never like giving the qualifying lap records for the older cars because you can turn them up in qualifying, but the race lap record for LMP1, Marco Werner back in 2008 in the 500-mile race, that was the Audi R10, then was a 1:48.7. So we're already nibbling at that in cars that can't be turned up. They'll be running lower fuel and maybe a slightly more aggressive setup, but there's no extra power here for these cars in this configuration. If you go a little bit further back, going to 1992, Juan Manuel Fangio did a 1:48.9 in the old GTP category. One of the 2-hour races here in the Eagle Mark III. So when people tell you that GTP cars are souped up LMP2s, you can laugh in their face. They are sophisticated and very fast racing cars, and they take some driving as well. Just remember, these cars are 1,300 kilos or thereabouts, so that's the weight of a GTD car, is it the through car, or a fairly light two-door sports road car. 1,400 kilos or just about for a Porsche 992 manual GTS. So these are not the lightweight cars of, say, IndyCar. And the outright lap record here is still held, I believe, by Alex Zanardi in the Reynard back in 1998, which I think was a 41.8. This looks like a decent run for Colin Brown down at Canada corner. As Nick Yellerly has now gone to the top. Dries Vanthoor, the first in the 48s, and he's been beaten 48.6 by Nick Yellerly in the red, white and black Acura. Colin Brown is putting a decent lap together as well. Acura and BMW, but Porsche hanging in there, just 0.4 away from pole position, and 6/1000ths for Matt Campbell, away from switching sides on the second row. This is an outstanding session that we're watching here.
Yeah, this is top-line drivers, top-line teams and manufacturers really pushing to the 10th degree here. This is fantastic. And Campbell is on a decent lap right now, too. Just did a good first sector that, if he can keep that pace up, might see him threaten for that third spot. This is the most life we've seen out of the Porsche 963 all weekend long. So they've waited till pretty late in the game, but this is when it starts to matter. So we'll see if Campbell can keep this going. Just did his best middle sector 2. Might it be enough to jump at least one spot and maybe threaten to get into the 148s?
Interestingly, none of the cars have come into the pits for a change of tyres, as Sheldon von der Linde leapfrogs Dries Vanthoor. 3 cars now within 0.3. 6 cars, make that 7 cars within a half a second. And Ross Gunn is under 0.7 away from what is a stunning provisional pole position time in the Heart of Racing's Valkyrie. That is still a brilliant performance from the Aston Martin and from Ross Gunn. Richard Kelly saying, do you see that Aston having a shot at the podium either in the US or the WEC this season? I think it's more likely to be here in the US. Their BOP has been looked at here. They have been quite heavy up until now in both of the championships. Nick Yellerly pits. He's put the 148.6 on the table and said, go out and beat it. And Colin Brown's come very, very close with a .080 deficit of 148.708 to the 628 from his teammate. Acura 93 from Acura 60 locking out the front row at the moment, then 2 BMWs. This is a quick lap from Sheldon von der Linde. He's through 14. His splits are good. Up towards the line. He'll get one more lap. He goes through. And a 48.8. 3 cars within 2.5 tenths. 93 and 60, the 2 Acuras. Van der Linde in the 24 from Vanto, the 25. Big moment on the outside of turn 1 for Sheldon there. Might have cost him some time, and this would have to be his last lap. The checkered flag is out. Dries Vanto with a slow lap last time around. Is he building up to something in the 24? Coming to the line now, he stayed out. Must feel there's some improvement from the 48.9 that he's got. And goes across the line. Just waiting for the timing screen. And up to third. Actually, my two timing screens seeing two entirely different things here.
Well, I see him in third, so I'm prepared to go with that.
48.6.
Yeah.
What I hadn't seen was Sheldon van der Linde's 48.6, putting him in to second place and splitting the Acuras. Can you believe those times?
Oh, so
we have
close.
Four cars within a tenth of a second.
Exactly. And Vanthor rather missed the front row by 0.02 of a second. It was 0.053 off pole for Vanderlinde. Vanthor was 0.055. Just unbelievable. The BMWs and the Acuras. I'll pat myself on the back for that one. I thought that they would be the ones going for pole. Unbelievable. All four of them within a tenth.
What were we just talking about earlier on, Ryan? About fractions of a percentage point. That's 108.5 second lap. And you've got four cars within 1/10 of a second. Actually, 0.08 of a second. Fractions. Absolute fractions. It is the... We hear it about in so many other sports as well, don't we? Where you talk about marginal gains. You miss an apex here by half an inch or an inch. And that's 0.08 of a second, maybe. Maybe. That is incredible. Half a tenth between first and second. 2 milliseconds, 2/1000ths of a second between second and third. 1/4 of a tenth between third and fourth. And then 2.5 tenths between fourth and fifth. 1.5 tenths between fifth and sixth. 3 milliseconds between sixth and seventh. And that's 7 cars within half a second in a 109-second lap.
Good job, bro.
But apparently,
I tell you, man, the
BOP is rubbish and shouldn't be allowed. Really? You really see this working for me in these qualifying sessions. There's absolutely no point in leaving anything on the table. And that's what those drivers have done right there. Nobody's sandbagging, nobody's hiding performance. And what we've seen there, take out Jimmy Bruni's time, which is a little bit off, and they have been a little bit off all week. Roscoe drops down to 10th, but still just under 7 tenths away from pole position. And 10 of the 11 cars in the GTP field are within 7 tenths on a 119-second lap. Fractions. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Acura BMW, Porsche Cadillac, and Aston Martin on the same playing field. In fact, within the same couple of square meters of the same playing field is what that basically comes down to, doesn't it, Ryan?
Yeah, that's right. And the fact that it's this close at this track of all places, you talk about how long of a lap it is and what a small percentage of a lap time, you know, the 6/10 is. And it's a 4-mile lap here. And at the end of 4 miles, basically half a second covers the top 10 in this field, just a fraction more than that. Really, really remarkable.
Nick Yellerly has pulled out all the stops again and gets ahead of the two BMWs, stayed ahead. He pitted before the end of the session, so he must have known that he'd done his very best. Let's hear from him now with Arjuna Kankapati.
That is 3 pole positions in a row for this number 93. Although last time out, it was Rengo van der Zande. 2 races ago, it was Nick Yellerly. And as the team celebrates, Kakuota's come over to join us as well. I'm going to steal Nick for a quick moment. Nick, what a lap. And you pulled off the track and saw the other competitors go out for a couple more. Were you thinking that time was good enough?
I mean, I knew it was a decent lap, but you never know. Obviously, we were super tight between us, actually, in free practice too, between ourselves and the BMW. So we knew it would be a tight battle. Obviously, they've got some good drivers as well. So, yeah, looking forward to the race tomorrow. I feel we've got a really good race car, and, yeah, just very happy to take my second pole this year.
The margins are quite tight, 53 thousandths back to second, and I think it's 800ths that cover the top 4. Are we going to be in for a run down to turn 1 that's quite exciting tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, IMSA racing is always super exciting, isn't it? So, yeah, very happy to obviously get that pole, be starting in the best position possible. And, yeah, let's go racing.
Congrats on a great lap. Best of luck tomorrow.
Thanks.
Well, we termed this Super Saturday when we kicked off at just before 8 o'clock local time this morning. We've done something over 10 hours of broadcasting from America's National Park of Speed, and we've come down on the longest track that we visit all year to fractions of a session, fractions of a second. Congratulations to PJ Hyatt, who takes LMP2 for AO Racing. To GTD, Russell Ward, who was the fastest GT driver, faster even than the GTD Pro field, headed by Giacomo Altoe. But it has been the day of Acura, beating the two BMWs. Nick Yellerly pulls one out and just half a tenth ahead of the rest of the field. He'll lead them round to the start tomorrow on the Motul Grand Prix. Join us for that on Sunday.